Hi everyone. Hi everybody. Welcome back to another episode of VCTV, which is the Venture Capital TV and it's from LATOKEN. I'm the host and moderator of the show. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the regional director of LATOKEN, and obviously VCTV is from LATOKEN. Today's topic is cross-border commerce, logistics, and shipping. So let's focus on 2021. What are the trends? I mean, we obviously in 2020, I think most of us went lockdown, and during the lockdown mode, we did a lot of e-commerce shopping, online shopping. Be it within, I think mostly within the country, I would say, because the borders were closed down and shut down. So let's just discuss what happened in terms of the trends that we found that we saw during the lockdown in 2020, and how 2021 is going to look like in terms of the trends in the e-commerce space, logistics, and shipping, be it the domestic market or be it the cross-border. We're going to cover both aspects as well, because country like Singapore, obviously, it's very tiny. A country like India is quite huge, and you have a lot of domestic commerce within the country as well. Similarly, Eddie Chow from Hong Kong and China. So let's talk about focus on India, China, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia, and probably you can cover the globe as well after that. So today we have two speakers. So I'm joined today by two speakers to discuss this topic. Harsh Setia from AHA Ventures and Eddie Chow from Innovi. Hi, welcome back on VCTV. Both been on VCTV before, so I welcome you back. Let's start with Eddie Chow. For those who may not know him, let's start with a short intro and background about you, Eddie.
Okay, sure. Okay, I'm a serial entrepreneur and also some investors on Faster Capital as well. For serial entrepreneur, I usually do investment or also solution on tech or e-commerce platforms and also some artificial intelligence. Yeah. And for e-commerce, because I have looking more about in China and also in Hong Kong and the cross border between American and also Hong Kong, and also my company also work as do some advisor on technologies, especially deep tech, AI, blockchain as well. And for e-commerce, we are building different marketplace and understand different marketplace in around the world. Yeah, these little introductions.
Sure, thank you, and welcome back on VCTV, Eddie.
Yeah.
Harsh, over to you with your short intro and background. Even the people just know you, even the regular speaker on VCTV, but still for the new viewers in the audience that we have.
Sure. Thank you so much. Glad to be back on VCTV as always. Glad to have you, Sonny, and glad to have Eddie for the first time as well, meeting him for the first time. So my name is Harsh Setia. I'm a venture partner with Our Ventures. Our Ventures is a sector agnostic investment network where we help startups raise funds all the way up to $10 million. I've personally worked with Fortune 50 companies, unicorns as well, and currently help startups grow their business, raise funds through strategic tie-ups and growth partnerships. So looking forward for a great discussion today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harsh and Eddie. So let's start with some opening remarks. So what happened in the space of, let's start with cross-border e-commerce. So what insights can you share? Like what happened in 2020? What do we see now? And how does 2021 look like? Eddie, let's start with your region, your country,
Yeah,
Hong
sure.
Kong, China. So China being the major manufacturing based supplier to the major countries in the West. So how did both the countries, like the supplier and the destination country, got affected, and what did you see in 2020?
Actually, I think start from Hong Kong first. Yeah. Because actually Hong Kong is a good market and not focus on more technologies for 20 years or 30 years. But in this emphatic on coronavirus issues, Hong Kong become very standalone situations because we are behind China and also foreign countries. Because because we are consistent before in with England before. We were more on not on the production with more importing and exporting influence. But in this few years, according to the logistics, devices, diseases, more Hong Kong people were more concerned about online markets. And although the technologies is also already built in Hong Kong, but most of the citizens are not very well known about the technologies, even on the online how to do online marketing or online markets. But in this few months or half years, more people will focus more about the online marketing, and also they will try to focus on more not only Hong Kong but globalize and conduct more marketing as also marketplace. In China, because I think because China is also good of technologies and also importing manufacturing supply chain, but they will at first because they are not very keen on the technologies. But this 10 years they are very keen on technologies, and even before the coronavirus they have conducted more industries such as Alibaba or JD or whatever. But in this coronavirus, they have not any affected actually because they already grown the whole global market because their costs are not very high, and also they will conduct more technologies, not only the marketplace as well, and also conduct more video shopping, video marketplace as well. And I think they have not any effect in these few years.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eji, for those opening remarks covering Hong Kong and China. Before I start this question with Harsh, I just want to introduce our third speaker of the episode, Karthik Bhatt from Adventure HQ in Dubai. Welcome to VCTV, Karthik. Finally, you are here.
Oh, thank you so much, Sonny. It's an absolute pleasure once again. And like I said, episode number 69 for me. And it's been a good 1 year with all of you. And I represent a couple of family offices based in the UK, a family office and a VC fund based out of Qatar, and an investment committee that is based out of UAE, primarily investing into health tech, edutech, fintech, and a lot of businesses that are into primary e-commerce incubation. In terms of cross-border trade and cross-border logistics, I mean, there cannot be a better example than GCC. With GCC itself becoming a base of cross-border trade and cross-border e-commerce, large businesses like Moon, Namshi, Amazon are continuously thriving and growing exponentially only because of a very strong and favorable disposition from regulatory as well as from people-to-people transactions originating out of GCC. UAE being a base, 87 to 90% of the trade that these businesses do comes in from businesses or geographies around UAE, which is Saudi, Iraq, Iran, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, etc. So yes, a very strong opportunity, and COVID has only exemplified it with trade being restricted to certain parts of inverting the business into the geography and certain parts taking significant exponential benefit in terms of multipliers. So yeah, fabulous opportunity.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Especially the region that you come. Thank you, Karthik. I feel like StreamYard is like Clubhouse when people can join and speak about the topics of their choice. We have Fabio, who just joined us today. And Fabio, welcome to VCTV. Nice to see you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's have you on the show as well today. Why not? So, Fabio, a quick intro and background before we move to the questions, please.
Say it again. Sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
So your intro and background, a little bit about yourself for the viewers.
Yes, I'm an economist by training. I have a PhD from the University of Chicago in economics, and early in my career, I worked in international institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the European Central Bank. Then at the time of the launch of the euro. Then I moved to the private sector, and I worked for Goldman Sachs in London. And then I moved to the sovereign wealth fund space, working first in Qatar, then in Dubai, and lastly for 8 years as the chief strategy officer of the Oman Investment Fund, which is the sovereign wealth fund of the Sultanate. My latest incarnation is as investment banker, assisting innovative companies to raise funds and list on the American stock market, in particular the over-the-counter market or the Nasdaq capital.
Right. Thank you, Fabio. And yes, we'd love to hear your insights about cross-border commerce. Today's topic, logistics and shipping. Harsh, I'd like to ask you what's happening in India in terms of domestic market.
So in India, definitely because of COVID, what had happened was people were extremely afraid to go out and shop a lot, right? Because and even right now, the fact that with the restrictions coming down is becoming extremely problematic, and the cases are soaring again. In fact, in Maharashtra, the state where I'm at, they are probably reconsidering putting lockdowns again. So that is why becoming logistics is absolutely crucial, and having service providers who can deliver directly from the shops to the customer homes. This is absolutely vital, right? But there are two elements to it. One is the logistics in terms of the last mile delivery, and also the central delivery, which comes from the manufacturing side of the company to the retailers, right? There's a huge problem on both ends in India. So these are some of the things which we need to work at. We had a couple unicorns which are working on the first side of the supply chain as well as on the second side of the supply chain. And this is, in fact, surprisingly, you'll find out that this is the space where India has the largest number of unicorns as well as the largest number of companies with high $100 million valuations. You look at delivery, you look at express Bs, not unicorns yet, but easily over $500 million valuation. You look at company like Dunzo, which is doing phenomenally well. A company which I'm leading right now, the mandate for, they are in an early entry, but 3-4 years down the line, I see them operating at $100 million valuation as well. So logistics is very crucial, particularly for India. And even if you look at it in the cross-border space,
Yeah,
called as
Harsh, you
drop
there?
shipping, right? The essence of how it used to operate is you can easily, in drop shipping, you could easily kind of dispatch single items of inventory from one country to the other without having to, order the entire container of that, right? That was what the essence of drop shipping was. Now, with the COVID coming, it has become extremely difficult to do that, and there are a lot of e-commerce companies who are primarily operating through drop shipping. They've completely shut down because of that. So it's kind of pivoted back to the earlier model of going to the container-based systems. So that is why I'm seeing increasingly newer business model as well for warehouse-based businesses, right? Where they do fractional warehouses. So instead of owning the entire warehouse, you can take a small area of few carrots of few stacks of inventory that you want. You can simply kind of stack your inventory over there and offer your services and dispatch it directly. So these are some very interesting and innovative business models which I'm seeing in the supply chain and the logistics space. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that there's another wave of the virus, and the city that you live in is going to another lockdown. I don't know what the version of lockdown that is. So,
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
oh, okay, hopefully not. Yeah, yeah, we don't want to be in lockdowns anymore. That's painful.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Pratik, with Dubai, I think the region that you are basically. So I think you the region. I don't know if it's a manufacturing hub or not. So how was it affected, and what are startups doing in the space, and how the lockdown has affected the startups and the entrepreneurs and the investors who have invested into these companies?
So, GCC was always a destination transshipping and distribution aggregation network, which means goods would not come to every part of the GCC. It would come into some parts and get redistributed to the rest of the GCC. However, cross-border shipping and cross-border logistics was a cumbersome process with certain exemptions, certain tax structures, and certain regulatory structures. But what has happened in the last 2 years? primarily with a lot of e-commerce businesses coming in, is that businesses run their shops in certain parts of the world, let's say like a UAE, but operate across GCC, which means shipment from UAE to Saudi, shipment from UAE to Qatar, shipment from UAE to Bahrain, shipment from UAE to Muscat has become that much more easier. And there are multiple aggregators. So it would be difficult for, let's say, 20 e-commerce companies to ship goods from UAE to Saudi. But there are aggregators, let's say like 11 Speed or 5 Down, which necessarily aggregate from UAE and take the merchandise to Saudi and then redistribute. These are what we call as the startup thrivers in this region. Businesses like Fetcher, businesses like Delivery, which has moved from India into the UAE, or business like 5 Down, are necessarily success stories that started with e-commerce and have today become distribution hubs or distribution networks. Also, what has helped is a lot of regulatory infrastructure has changed. So common registration, common municipality clearances, common import duty structures, inter-country transfer permissions, and corridors being created by the government has made the entire structure so seamless that what used to typically take 6 days for goods to move from UAE to Saudi is necessarily a 24-hour transaction. And e-commerce companies are now successfully able to deliver goods even from UAE to anywhere in GCC in 24 hours. So it has grown. What has grown is in a lot of warehousing space startups have started coming in. A lot of logistics and or distribution startups have started coming in. A lot of automation startups have started coming in. So Amazon's warehouse that is operating with robotics, or even Noon's warehouse, which primarily operates through a third party on AI and robotics, or even bringing in last mile connectivity through drones and valet networks, is something that a lot of startups have started investing in. Valet networks and two-step delivery is a very common phenomenon in GCC, and that is what is growing because of these logistics startups. Early days, infrastructure is being built. Service levels and excellence in service level is something that would come in only in the next 2 to 3 years in the business. But a lot of investments are coming in primarily from government and core economic sectors.
Right. Okay, what about VC investments and family offices? No, not much?
Family offices wouldn't get into this, Sonny, because most of the family offices would continue to be in the core space, which means warehousing space they would operate in. They would operate in building a business, but being a last mile and being a service-driven business, VCs would come in the aggregation center. Fetcher is a VC-driven business. Aramex has been bought by Amazon. Aramex Operations has been bought by Amazon. Food delivery network like Talabat and Zomato have expanded their networks here into different businesses. Kareem has gotten into logistics and distribution in this part of the world. Kareem was a taxi operator. Taxi operator became an Uber of the region, and Uber of the region is now become a logistics partner. So that is something that is growing significantly. Saudi is seeing a lot of investments coming from Saudi businesses, purely in terms of last mile connectivity. And Saudi's geography is more or less like India, with Class A cities, Class B cities, Class C cities. So Class A cities, which is Riyadh, Dammam, and for that matter, Jeddah, have all the infrastructures. But the moment you go beyond those cities, logistics becomes a little bit of a challenge, which is where new startups are coming in for overnight delivery services. So yes, there is a lot of investments coming there. Blackstone has incubated 3 businesses in this part of the world with, I am assuming, a net investment of around 18 to 20 million. I wouldn't know the exact amount, but that's the quantum of investment Blackstone has done in last 6 months.
Wow. That's a great piece of news, actually. And Kareem, I remember when I was in Dubai, now they're pivoted into a different business model. Good to know. Thank you so much, Karthik. Fabio, what do we see in your region? Cross-border commerce, in the space of cross-border commerce and logistics.
The main aspect is that despite the pandemic, the container traffic from China has remained resilient, apart from the impact of pandemics more or less a year ago.
We can't hear you very clearly. Is it me only? Is it
due to the fact that the more
we can't hear you, Fabio. So I see Harsh, I see Eddie. Karthik and Fabio have frozen on me. Right. I
I
think
thought it
both,
was just me.
yeah, I need to make sure that as well. I think both have frozen on us. So let's just move to Eddie. Eddie, what kind of
Can you hear me now?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
No, Fabio, you were actually away for a long time. I think it's gone. Karthik still is frozen mode.
But I don't. Can you hear me now or not?
We can see you and we can hear you now, just now, but we lost you completely in the middle. Totally, completely frozen. Like Karthik and Fabio, we froze at the same time.
But I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah, you both are back at the same time. Fabio has gone to frozen mode again.
I'm telling you, StreamYard does this to us. I'm telling you.
There, Fabio is back again. Shall we continue with Fabio or shall we continue with Eddie? Fabio, I think let's continue with Eddie, and you can probably fix your connection or change location, and we come back to you. Is that okay?
Okay, I will sort this out. Okay, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. So Eddie.
Okay, I will sort it out.
Perfect. Thank you, Eddie. So in terms of investments, what kind of new investment models do we see in the space, especially coming from your company? So what recent investments did you make in the last 1 year in the space?
Yeah, actually, I'm looking more about the marketplace actually because I can see some large companies such as Facebook or LinkedIn, yeah, or IG, Instagram, they have organized the marketplace and content it. So we more focus on marketplace as well. And also, artificial intelligence, AI is also important because more people will think the personal experience and also the recommendations for different people behavior is very important. So I'm looking more about AI, especially in recommendations or trend predictions, and also marketplace is also important. Yeah, because actually in Hong Kong, the technologies is a professional and for a long time for the e-commerce as well, but not more concerned about the AI. Yeah, and also I'm also looking for some payment gateway as well because Hong Kong is still left behind the payment, especially the payment API. So the payment is also important and important for me. Yeah. And for my company as well, I have invested some the company who do the e-commerce platform or even marketplace before. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Harsh. So, any recent investments? Thank you, Eddie, for that insights. Any recent investments in the space of cross-border commerce, logistics, or shipping from our ventures that you can share with us?
Got it. So not specifically in cross-border commerce, but I'm currently leading a mandate for pickup. Basically, that's an intracity logistics service, right? So what they are primarily doing is they are helping e-commerce players as well as small mom-and-pop shops and B2B players to supply it for the last mile delivery, right? That's what I'm operating in right now. So what is happening is there are multiple, as I mentioned earlier, there are the logistics is such a huge sector. There are each and every small part that is there, that there's an opportunity over there. You look at last mile delivery for e-commerce players, from mom and pop shops to end customers, from corporate logistics, from manufacturing sites to the end customers, right? Each and every one of them is a huge segment. The current one which I am working on right now is for the last mile for the B2B players, and it's doing phenomenally well right now. The kind of interest that we are getting from VC funds, family offices, it's absolutely amazing because they realize that logistics is the bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
So logistics is not a very fancy industry, but without logistics, there's literally nothing. If there's no logistics out there, how do we supply foods to the end customers, right? That's essentially the backbone of how the entire economy operates. So that is why they understand the importance of it, and we are seeing that in the kind of responses. So that is how we are seeing increasing, growth in that segment. At the same time, I believe India has not done enough in the cross-border e-commerce space and cross-border shipping space, right? So I would be very interested to have, some cross-border e-commerce startups facilitating easier forms of transfer from India to say GCC or to Europe or to US. And if they need help, I would be more than glad to help them out in terms of scaling their operations.
So, in terms of investment rounds, what stage are these startups at?
So the one which I am working at right now, it's at the seed level. Most of the other startups which are already operating in this space, they've been operating it that for 2 3 years already, right? So one of the companies which my friend was working in, Ninja Cart, they are actually at Series B level. They've already raised 15 20 million dollars, and they're extremely profitable as well. So their operations are pretty well. Even as far as other companies like Shop 101 and Dash 101, they used to be e-commerce as well as logistics at the same time. So a lot of the times, even the e-commerce companies are extending into the logistics space as well. Meesho is a social commerce platform. Even they are trying to build in their own logistics arm. So that is why it becomes extremely crucial to either we can have like a single focus on e-commerce alone, or you can extend that to last mile logistics as well. But the opportunities is always there. And doesn't matter how many startups are there. No one is going to be the market leader in this space because the opportunity is humongous, and it takes around 2 to 3 years even to solidify your space in a single city. Forget about the entire country. Even in
Yeah.
a single city, it takes that long. So the opportunity is always going to be there for multiple. Obviously, couple years down the line, we would see some consolidation happening. 2 3 players kind of merge, turn into one bigger entity. But as of right now, there's still plenty of room for everyone to grow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Harsh. We have Fabio back. Fabio, hi. Let's try
Hi.
again.
Okay. Now, what I was saying is that apart from the very early stage of the pandemics, more or less a year ago, and for the 2 or 3 subsequent months, the traffic, container traffic, and therefore the import-export between Europe and China, and between US and China have not suffered much. Actually, what we've seen is a huge increase in container rates, reportedly between 250 and 300%. So a lot of people are talking about the crisis of container traffic in the container sector because of shortages of space. So it's an interesting aspect because this confirms that most of the economic damage in industrialized countries inflicted by the pandemics has been concentrated in small businesses, in non-tradable services such as restaurants, professional services, and well, finance in part. But the manufacturing has been much more resilient than anticipated, and this has caught the major shippers and the major logistic players a bit off guard. The same is true, for example, also for the oil sector, where 6 months ago, up until 6 months ago, even more recently, people were spreading doom and were saying, "Oh, everything will collapse." Now we see that the oil and in general commodity prices are resurging quite strongly. So the bottom line is that the cross-border commerce has still been quite perky. What will need to be upgraded is the technology which is used for to manage the traffic. So we will need we will see a wider adoption of tracking software applications, maybe even blockchain. Somebody has fantasized so far in tracking the container and the commodities sent around the world.
Yeah.
The tracking, for example, of trucks and other means of transportation will become crucial. And if we want to widen our focus, also the supply chain will need to be re-engineered, because what the pandemic has highlighted is that the resilience of supply chain is an element that needs to be weighted against the efficiency of the supply chain in normal times.
Yeah, thank you, Fabio. I think touching upon supply chain, what we saw in the beginning of 2020, that obviously, we were short of toilet papers on this side of the world, and and many more things in other side of the world as well. So, how to make this supply chain sustainable and robust using technology? Karthik.
So I think I would have anyways jumped onto this discussion. So what challenges India faces, what challenges other parts of the world faces, and what challenges GCC faces are very different. While India at some point in time in the last 4 years has spent a lot of dollars on building infrastructure for logistics and supply chain, GCC over the last 30 years has built massive cross-border commerce platforms and cross-border commerce corridors, and now is in that stage where technology is going to build in that efficiency, automation technology or warehouse systems, RFID, or even bringing in about artificial intelligence, or about bringing in scale-based functionalities, aggregation-based container consolidations, etc., is bringing in that efficiency in dollars, efficiency in time, and more important, trying to bridge the expectation versus the reality. So, for example, today, multiple third party shipping companies have started building automated algorithms to make sure that people, not only on the last mile delivery, but even on cross border countries, are pegged into the estimated arrival time of shipments, which goes down to the last hour. Automated custom clearances, pre-planned custom clearances through government to government networks, which make sure that your average holding time, which used to be anywhere between 3 to 7 days, is now reduced to 1 day. Or seamless clearances, which is clearances at a port of origin, has made sure that the entire port of the disembarkation or your destination port doesn't need to go through a stipulation or a vigilance check on shipments that arrive, reduces the time at the port of disembarkation by anywhere between 1 to 2 days. More importantly, network carriers have reduced the increased the dollar efficiency all the way from 18 to 24%. The businesses that I incubate have seen logistic gains, which typically used to be 6%, anywhere between 4 to 6% of your overall product cost, gone down to anywhere between 2.5 to 3%, because your inventory movement has become that much more sharper. So inventory that used to sit in 6 to 7 different warehouses now gets pre-allocated on demand planning algorithms to such a level that we are more or less close to a just-in-time inventory. So a lot of data, a lot of technology, a lot of automation, and more importantly, a lot of operational efficiency has reduced massive logistic overheads in the businesses.
Right. Great points, great insights, Karthik. Harsh, talking about different regions, different countries, what can you add to what just Karthik mentioned?
So Karthik was quite right in the overall summation. As he pointed out, in India, the fund problems are still quite different. Even just on the ground logistics across tier 4 cities, small towns, small villages, that is still a huge challenge. So that is where most of the investment that could happen, and that's what should happen right now at this stage, to ensure that we can then go to the next level, right? At the same time, if you look at it in terms of the startups which are operating right now, the bigger challenge which we are facing is to ensure that even the basic things like farm produce, right, if they are not moved very quickly, if we don't have enough adequate cold storage for them, maybe it be for fisheries or poultry or those kind of industries, basic cold storage facilities are still glaringly missing. So those are some areas which we can look at how we can democratize that, how we can make it more easily accessible. You will see so many cases, just the producers is there, is just dumped because no one is there to purchase it. So that is those are some of the major issues which we are seeing. Additionally, I also see a lot of application of blockchain in this case, because what will happen is, if we can include blockchain over here, the supply chain efficiencies will then show up better right now. Right now, it is completely, there's literally zero tech involved. Most of the truck drivers have zero understanding of tech, and they kind of operate on their own systems without any structure in place. So if you can kind of create those nodal structures through blockchain, decentralize the entire process, the supply chain could really take to the next level. Because right now it is a very poor state of affairs, quite honestly, with the kind of losses that we are facing, just because we could not ship the goods at the right place at the right time. And even if you look at the dairy industry, the same thing happens. Dairy industry is such a huge, highly perishable product, and the reliance on a few large players to do most of the delivery, like Amul or Govardhan or those are the private players, it is exceedingly high. So that's why we need a proper structure and a proper SCM strategy in place to ensure that these kind of losses can be avoided, and these are avoidable losses.
All right. I think technology has a lot to play, and as you rightly said, blockchain plus machine learning, artificial intelligence, and IoT all actually come into play. So, Eddie, let's talk about from your perspective. What kind of innovative solutions do you see in this space coming from your region?
You mean innovation? Is it?
Yeah, if you see any something, new during the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay. I really think the supply chain transparency, is also important. Because according to appendix, the whole market is globalized, not just in Hong Kong or China, more globalized. So I think the supply chain, the materials transparency and also traceable is also important, because different markets or different products have its unique value propositions, and also have unique values. So, but manufacturing spaces and also the production spaces is different actually, and also the quality assurance is different. So, in order to conduct the balance across the blockchain platforms, the transparency and also the tracking is also important. And also, because it is embedded, more business are closed actually, because due to the cash flow. So more investors or even the entrepreneurs are looking more about the sustainable. Sustainable. So sustainable business model is also important. And I prefer the blockchain can provide standardized across the different countries around the world, and also be more specific, and also a standard logistics apps, or even the payment is important, because the currency is different, and to the balance.
Exactly. Payments are very important. Cross-border e-commerce and payments go hand in hand. A blockchain technology undoubtedly is the best use case for the supply chain industry. Fabio, let's hear from you. What innovation have we seen coming? Because I remember you had mentioned previously that you're working with few startups. So what did you see in the last 1 year in the space that you can share with your audience today?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen much, because this is one of the sector which has been most affected by uncertainty. So apart from some applications that can be adapted to the logistic and the supply chain management, interesting proposals have been rare. I would say that this is it has been a time of pause and reflection for the industry. Honestly, I haven't seen a lot happening in this space, at least not in Europe or for what I can see, even in the United States. Most of the action has been, for example, in things that are related to the logistics and shipping, but with a heavy emphasis, for example, on healthcare. In particular, we are working with a company that is sterilizing goods that are frozen with liquid nitrogen. So to offer an additional layer of protection from viruses when you use frozen, when you adopt freezing techniques. So this is the kind of proposals that we've seen, but again, it's an area which is more related to healthcare and prevention of contagion rather than the bulk of the logistic and shipping technology.
Right, got it. Thank you, Fabio. Karthik, do we have any success stories to share with our audience? Specific startups that you can name?
So, not in the startups, but the government of UAE through Abu Dhabi ports has initiated Silsal, which is a Makta or a Mubadala group entity, which is primarily into blockchain-based securitization of their cargoes and tracking through the ledgers, primarily into the perishables and into the hazmat, primarily into the hazmat route. The reason for that is to reduce the occupancy rate of the ports with hazmat merchandise and to move seamlessly back to the destination where it's supposed to be. I wouldn't know much about the success because it's a restricted area in a restricted business division, hazmat being. But that's one use case that we've seen. Otherwise, I was expecting that during the COVID, perishables and medication would come in through the securitized ledger or digitized ledger routes, but haven't come across a lot of use cases. All the use cases that we are seeing is only in time and motion and efficiency building state at the moment, not too much into the blockchain space. Fetcher was a success story in automation. Unifor is a success story in automated and robotic based warehousing solutions. And Noon is a classic story in ensuring the last mile connectivity, cross border last mile connectivity down to 24 hours. And all of them have been technology babies. So, yeah, technology definitely has been playing a lot of key role in the region.
Right. So thank you, Karthik. So Harsh, Karthik mentioned about the government involvement in this space. So do we have something coming from your side as well in terms of the support from the government?
So government is definitely trying to make a lot of improvements. So that is actually kind of the hallmark of Modi government, which we did when back in Gujarat, right? The improvement in the state highways, the national highways, which was done, it was absolutely phenomenal. And even if you go even now 20 years down the line, they're still kind of in the best system. So that is essentially where a lot of progress is happening. At the same time, it's good to build some solid infrastructure, but at the same time, there needs to be more incentives from private investors, right? What happens is there's only so much which the government can do, and that
Harsh?
too per se. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Today
Okay.
it seems like the connection
Got
has been like this for everybody today on the panel. Yeah, please continue, Harsh. Please continue.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. So as I was saying, government is definitely trying the best that they can do, but there's obviously a lot of limitations in how the government can operate them by themselves because there are a lot of inefficiencies in which the government operates. Plus, there's a lot of limitation in terms of the mindset of what can be done, right? So there has to be a lot of openness to let private investors and let private people expand into those kind of segments. And government should kind of open that space as well into subcontracting it to private players who can do a much better job of that in a much more capital efficient manner. So there are a lot. So there needs to be a lot of legal incentives, a lot of taxation benefits, and those kind of structures which the government needs to do to ensure that the private players are interested in that. Right now, we have a lot of startups operating in this space, which are kind of working on the existing infrastructure base. However, if you can really prove, but that if you can really improve the infrastructure from the ground up through the use of a modern technology and creating more startups in that segment, that could be truly groundbreaking. Because if you're simply operating on top of the base infrastructure, there's only a certain limit where you can grow, and then there'll be a ceiling, which your infra without a solid infra, you cannot go beyond. So that is where I see a lot of opportunities still present in India right now.
So it's both government and the private sectors working hand in hand together. Thank you, Harsh. Eddie, do we have similar stories coming from you, from your side of the world?
Sorry, pardon. Can you speak again?
So anything coming from your side in terms of government involvement in the space?
Okay. Actually, I think the government actually are very supporting on the whole marketplace as well, because people more investing on profit making. But government also because in Hong Kong not all people are very rich can buy things actually. They were more covered more the social impact and also the elderly, because Hong Kong more have elderly people and the government need to take care of them, and this is those markets is also very important. And also, I think the government can also very support the every channel, especially cross border e-commerce, or also even the marketing, the channels, and they are very support in importing different areas. But up till now, yeah, I'm still looking more about the government because when China is more close in Hong Kong, especially and in this few months, and the government look more about China more instead of the globalized, instead of the American or other countries. So I'm still looking into what the government need in the next 6 months or 2 years later.
Right. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you for that. Fabio, over to you, please.
I think that the long-lasting legacy of this pandemic will be in the way the distribution of the vaccine will be organized, because this is a huge logistic operation, which is comparable to the operations during wartime. And you see, one of the reasons why post-World War II there was a huge impulse to growth was due to the fact that during the war there had been a number of advances in all fields, from obviously nuclear energy to the technology in aviation, to statistics, to computer for decrypting, coded messages. So, in a sense, with the pandemic, the government has to has to improve a lot of areas, from the transport of vaccine to the storage of this vaccine, sometimes in environment or in freezers that then keep temperature of minus 80 Celsius. And then the transport of these vaccine, these doses, to the various vaccination centers, the various hospitals, pharmacies, and buildings where doctors and nurses will administer it. And you will need also to trace the vaccine people who are vaccinated, and so on and so forth. So this, I think, will give a boost to a whole lot of sectors, and will be harbinger of a revolution in how public institutions, healthcare institutions, more broadly logistic businesses will handle their activities in the near and distant future. So I think that the main innovation will derive from the massive operation which will be put in place to vaccinate, tens of millions of people all over the world. Actually, billions of people when the whole thing will be completed.
Yeah, very rightly said. It's very important. So, what are the lessons learned from this? Because this is the space which got like affected the most during the pandemic. So, what are the lessons learned? The closing remarks simultaneously we can take. So, Karthik, over to you, please.
So, key lesson learned is while it's good to grow gradually, technology is a key driver in this space, and it's always better to stay ahead, build a logistics backbone that works as a business continuity program or a BCP program for a business. That's one. Second, investments in a sector like this primarily need to come in from multiple sides. Core investments in the sector cannot be done overnight, and it cannot be beefed up. It needs to be built on an as-is basis gradually over a period of time, because it becomes a backbone of your economy. More importantly, digitization and technology transformation is a must. Blockchain at some point would become a key driver for perishables. It's a matter of time. In terms of a sector investment and in terms of my belief in this sector, while I completely believe in this sector and I believe that this is one that's going to grow economies, and it's actually the roads that build countries and economies. So it's the logistics that will build countries. I think it would require a very different mindset and a very different approach to investing, because results wouldn't come overnight. Efficiencies cannot be measured overnight. It would require a gross, it would require a GDP level or an end market level growth into the business or into a geography to see the results coming in. So it's not primarily a space for a multiplier based business, but it's a space for a core economy investor who has the metal and who has that heart to wait for a few years for his dollars to grow. So
That's very true. Very true. Thank you, Karthik. Karthik, you there? Or is it me?
He's frozen.
Yeah, we have been playing this frozen game today. Hush, let him just come back. So, yeah, what lessons have we learned, and the closing remarks alongside of that? Hush, you frozen? Hush, you there?
Hello?
Yes, you froze for a bit.
Yeah.
We are
It's
taking
weird
turns.
today, absolutely.
We are taking turns and freezing. It just Eddie hasn't frozen on me so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were asking me.
So, what lessons have we learned? The supply chain space, cross-border commerce, shipping, logistics, these sectors have been affected the most during the pandemic, closed down, shut down, or whatever lockdown we call it. So, what lessons
Mhm.
have we learned, and the closing remarks
Got it.
to look forward to the future? Just to
Got it.
avoid. Future is unavoidable, but anyways, how to prepare for the future?
Absolutely. So logistics is essentially the backbone of any economy, right? Without logistics, there's literally no economy because you won't be able to transport the goods. So there definitely has to be a lot of focus and a lot of dedicated thinking towards the sector. Problem is right now everyone is so hyped and so the shiny object syndrome is what they call it, right? The shiny object syndrome of investing in tech startups, gaining like 10x multiples within 3 to 5 years. All that obviously has their own place. At the same time, you need to have a core investment in infrastructure-based projects as well, right? Karthik rightly pointed out that this is a deep, long-term play, long-term investment is there, and just government alone is probably not capable of handling the complexities by themselves. So what they can do is probably give some tax incentives or other form of benefits
Okay. Harsh, are you there?
over there as well. So that is overall
Okay.
opportunities are concerned. There's no end.
We are losing you, Harsh, in between. We can't hear you. We are losing you. So we can't hear you in between.
Okay, I think it's better if we kind of move to Fabio or Eddie.
Yes, Fabio seems like having a steady connection right now. Hope so.
Yeah.
Fabio,
Yeah.
let's take the
Finger crossed. The lesson we've learned, the main lesson is don't take anything for granted. Be aware that the black swan and other unexpected disruptive events can happen anytime, and try to be as well prepared as you can. But that's almost tautological. The interesting part, I would say, is to understand that logistics is a heavy, a very capital intensive industry, because ports, ships, infrastructure, warehouse require huge fixed investments.
Right.
So when something happens, you need to have the leeway and the flexibility not to be blown away by the 2, 3, 4 months of disruption. So this kind of resilience needs to be considered and be, for example, for investors, one of the key elements of the due diligence.
Right.
We haven't seen, because we have so far focused on the marine shipping and marine traffic mostly. There is an area which is air cargo that has been severely affected, because a lot of airlines that are also in the cargo space have been severely hit by the pandemic. We still don't know what the long-lasting effects will be on this sector. So the damage assessment, I would say, has not even started yet. But that's another area where key lessons will need to be internalized, and as soon as possible.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's a very great point, Fabio. Thanks for adding that point to the closing remarks. So we have lost Karthik and Harsh, unfortunately, due to the connection issues. Eddie, let's take the closing remarks and wrap up the show. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Actually, in Hong Kong, it's more some problems in Hong Kong actually. Even in China cultures, and also the app scene, the epidemic. And I hope, because in Hong Kong, some people have leave Hong Kong actually, and some people still in Hong Kong. I hope the whole market is become greater and become more sustainable. And all the outcoming people can come to Hong Kong, and also the people left outside Hong Kong can come back, and then to conduct more. And because in Hong Kong before, they are more about only concerned about profit as well before. But after the pandemic, I think more people need to focus more not only the profit as well, and also the social impact and the sustainable as well. Yeah, this is what I hope. Yeah.
A lot of people have left Hong Kong for sure. I know that. I'm aware.
Yeah,
about
sure.
that. Yeah, let's bring them back home. Thank you so much, Eddie. Thank you, Fabio, for joining us for the show. Really appreciate your insights as always, and Eddie, thank you again for joining us, and we hope to have you back both on another panel. And as I'm going to wrap up the show, I just want to say, please stay healthy, stay connected, and I'll see you again on another episode. But I'm back tomorrow again on another topic with another set of speakers, and I hope to see you again. And again, founders and entrepreneurs, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to have you on this show because the feedback that we receive from the founders is very good, positive, and we would love to see more of those pitching sessions. Similarly, investors, please come and connect with like-minded people on this panel and have fun. That's it. Thank you so much and take care. And I'm going to see you again at another episode of VCTV. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.